Hello, this is Esther coming to you with the July SU Colour Challenge over on Facebook, and this video is showing you the card that I made with the allotted colours we were given. So the colours for this month were Mint Macaron, Daffodil Delight, Night of Navy and Pacific Point. I'm going to be testing out the lovely new All Things Fabulous stamp set from Stampinup. So I'm starting with a piece of Whisper White cardstock, and I've laid out my flowers in order, going with the smallest design first in the darkest colour. I found this way it's easier to work up with the colours. Next, going in with Pacific Point, and you're kind of almost overlaying on top of the image that you've just done, but it's so much easier to see because you've laid down the darker colour first. So with the last flower I've stamped off before stamping on because I wanted a lighter shade to make sure that that flower showed through. Now the only tricky thing about this, doing it this way, is the spacing of where you put your flowers. If you started with the largest flower first, obviously it's a little bit easier, so that's one thing you have to be careful of doing it this way round. Next I'm going in with Mint Macaron, and there's these tiny little sprig stamps which you then can attach some flowers to. In hindsight, maybe I should have gone in with the leaves first, but I wanted to make sure that I lay down my green and yellow colour. So I carry on with this. Look, I've got a smudge already. Oh, it's typical, isn't it? So I'm just trying to space out these sprigs, not quite sure of my complete design yet, but just making sure they're spaced out and look, fairly in the right place. Then there's this kind of grape design that just fits really neatly on top of the stems, and I stamp third generation, so once, twice, three times, just get that lovely shading, and it gives creates a nice natural look to the flowers. Next I go in with the leaves. Now because I used quite a few of the smaller blocks, I did put two leaves, one on each side of this block. It does make it a little bit more tricky to see, but I put one on one side and the other on the other side, to the side of the block. Yeah, it was a trouble trying to fit in the leaves now that I'd laid down the yellow, so in hindsight I would have done it the other way round, but there you go, the joy of hindsight. I managed to still fit the leaves in and try and do some stamping off again, just to create a natural foliage kind of look. So with that kind of what I'm going to call the grape type flower, there is a smaller version of it as well, which is a great filler stamp, so I was pleased that I could go in with that to fill in the gaps. I found it easier this time to actually turn the page as I went, rather than trying to bend your wrist and be a contortionist. Is that the right word? Just turn your work. If that's what's easiest for you, then you can do it that way. There's no hard and fast rules to stamping. Next, I felt that it just needed more of a touch of blue, so I go with a cluster of blue flowers. Now you may notice that I'm actually going straight in with this colour. I'm stamping off and then doing the second shade of colour, and I'm using the larger flower before I use the filler stamp. This is because this is just two-step, so I've got my larger flower and it's easy just to put those centres in. Now after I'd done the first one, I thought, oh actually I could probably get 3 stamps out of this, a Night of Navy, because it's such a dark colour, and sure enough you can, and it gives a really nice shading to the flowers. I thought it needed something, and I thought, oh, what about these wisps that look a bit like dandelion wishes? And after I did it, I regretted it. I was thinking, no, I don't like it. It's not quite what I'm after. But actually, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think you actually notice. Grabbing out my scrap bag of strips that I seem to have a lot of, I'm using that new tag punch, the lovely Labels Pick-a-Punch, and because the paper I'm feeding through is not to size, I'm turning it over just to figure out where it's punching and to make sure I get the right shape. So it's quite useful just to turn your punch around to make sure that it's in the right position. Stamping, I'm here for you from the same stamp set, and then just trimming this down. Now, there might be some kind of way of being able to figure out the right size at the end of the tag, but I've just chopped it off anyway. So a top tip is for fitting in those small spaces, because as you could see, I just lost my paper to the punch. Get yourself a post-it note to help feed it through. I chop off the end because there was just too much space on the end, and now it looks like a cute tag, so I'm happy with that. Counting down 1, 2, 3, 4, missing one, and then going in with the next stitched rectangle framelit die and cutting out a frame with the Pacific point. It was just too thick. It was not what I had in my head, so I used the next die down, which was perfect to create this lovely narrow frame. Next, I come in and just audition a few different colours to see what suited the background of my card. Tried Night of Navy, Pacific Point, Daffodil Delight, but I landed on Pacific Point. In order to stick down my frame and make it stand up, I'm using our new foam pads, and I'm just trimming down really thin strips with the mini trimmer, just to be able to fit them around the frame. I'm just tapping this with the end of my ink pad just so that the tag stands out a bit more and shows up on the card. I'm putting a little hole at the end just to thread through some linen ribbon. No, won't fit through the hole. I'm going to try the dual polka dot ribbon. Yes, that's fine. This ribbon is very forgiving. I've just gone ahead and just tied it together, and not only does it give a lovely effect, but it is great ribbon to work with. I pop that up on dimensionals too, so it just fits onto that frame. Going in with my glue of choice, the multi-liquid purpose glue, using the grid paper to just line it up. I've done too many skew-if cards recently. While I had my stamps out, I'm going in with an insert and just going for the same method again. When I use darker cards, I like to put in a white insert just to show up on the inside of the card for the writing. I don't tend to do this with the lighter colour cards because you can just go ahead and write in it anyway. I think by stamping the inside it just helps complete the look of this card. I must admit I do not do this with all my cards, but just for this particular one I thought it had just added an extra nice detail inside. And there's this month's card. I hope you enjoyed it, and please do head over to Facebook to check out what everyone's done for the challenge. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for me, give me a thumbs up if you like this one, and comment below. Thank you very much.